Hello, everyone. It's Mike from Downtown Comics, and I'm here with James Rossman. James, how are you doing?
Good, Mike. How about you?
Good. Yes, it's been a week, but we're here to talk about some comics, specifically some that have been released on May 14th, 2025. So let's get started. DowntownComics.com will be the place to go to check out all the new releases, as always, and liking, sharing, and subscribing is appreciated. First, before we start, Free Comic Book Day. What did you think of the...
I loved it. Yeah, I got more than I was thinking that I was going to buy.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah,
I think I picked up almost every issue of all the free comic books.
Now, if you, I don't know how many you've read, but was there one that stood out like, oh, I didn't expect this to be better than advertised, or, you know, maybe something that you wouldn't have normally picked up?
Yeah, there was a couple. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm reading some of the Godzilla ones right now, but there was one in particular that had, I think, 3 different stories of Godzilla in it. So I really like that one. I think that was like previews of new Godzilla issues.
Yes, Godzilla's starting their own Godzilla verse. IDW is. Yes. It's Godzilla all summer. So, and that segues great into one of the books we're going to talk about.
Definitely.
So, all right, but we'll let you go first. Mm-hmm. What do we got on tap?
Yeah, first up for me is Battle Beast #1.
Oh, this is, oh my gosh, so many calls about this book.
I can imagine. I mean, especially, this is, with all the blind bags.
That was it, yeah. Do you have any blind bags?
Yeah.
Do you have any blind bags? For those of you that wanted blind bags, you can order direct from Downtown Comics as long as it's before the order cutoff date. So come and talk to us, and we'll get you as many as you want.
Yeah, I think I bought 5 of them. So it was. It was pretty cool. I don't necessarily partake in stuff like that a lot of the time.
Okay.
Just because I'm like, that's more money geared towards other comics. But I was like, okay, because it didn't matter. Like, there were tons and tons of different variants that you could have gotten. And
right.
They were like what? $3.99, $4.99.
I think it was either $3.99 or $4.99.
Yeah, so it was really cool. I only got 1 duplicate of the A cover, but all the other ones were pretty cool. I was happy with them.
Okay.
But this is obviously written by Robert Kirkman and art by Ryan Ottley. First and foremost, I've never read Invincible, nor have I ever seen the show.
Okay.
So I was definitely going into this blind.
Okay.
Now I did buy the first volume that has like issue 1 through 13. I haven't read it yet, but I was like, you know what? I've heard that you can, after reading this is definitely something that you can just pick up if you're like me and you haven't seen the show or read it. But no, it's interesting because this takes place immediately following the battle from Invincible #19, which is actually one of the comics that I got in the blind bag. So I read that just to kind of get, history of it. And essentially at the end, Battle Beast walks through this, I think it was like a green door, a red door, something like that. And as he's coming up from the other side, that's where this takes place.
Okay.
So he's, his one objective, Battle Beast's one objective is to find a formidable opponent that, can defeat him or even possibly kill him.
So he's akin to, I guess, a Marvel character that I know called the Champion.
Yes, yeah.
Who was one of the he's in the same thing as the Grandmaster, and he's part of that race. But his whole thing is, I want to go find someone who's worthy of fighting, kind of thing. Yeah. So is that what this guy is?
Yeah,
basically?
essentially. Yeah, because every battle that he's been in, he had to leave, his home world. I can't remember his home world's name, but the world was just, encapsulated in nothing but war. So, he was going like the extra mile, and he had like all this rage. So he's like, okay, well, I better leave before I destroy everything and everyone that we've built here. And so when he, like I said, when he goes through that glowing door, he's on this ship that he had already killed all the crew of. Mm-hmm. So it's him and the ship. And so this computer is like, these people I've been with the longest, so they were basically like family to me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, well, my objective is to find someone that can defeat me in battle and to kill me. So the ship's like, okay, I'll help you out with this. So, yeah, we go on this hunt of, there's one creature that, he goes and fights, and, obviously that didn't work out. So, and what's interesting about this is Robert Kirkman was, I saw an interview where he was saying that he doesn't necessarily have an end goal in mind with this. He's just kind of writing it, and as he goes, and so I mean, obviously the end goal is for Battle Beast to die essentially. So, but yeah, it's interesting that he's not. It's an ongoing series, so.
Oh, it is. Okay, it's not a miniseries.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we'll see how long this goes. Okay. I think the Invincible ran for what.
130 something issues, I think. Yeah, I'd have to look it up, but yeah, a long time. Yeah, over what 10, 11 years.
Yeah. So yes. I really liked it. It was definitely gory. Good battles. Okay. So I mean, makes sense from the Invincible universe. So
right. So if you're wanting violence, all right.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, I loved it overall.
Okay, cool. Now, do you think they should ever do that blind bag? I don't know if they're doing it on like 2 and up. I don't know if it was just a one thing. But...
I think from what Robert Kirkman said, it's just a one thing. Okay, which I get it because that is a lot of money to be like, especially if someone gets the 1 in 1,000 or something like that. Right. So yeah, but unfortunately, didn't pull one of those.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So my first one is a Godzilla book. So we are fighting the X-Men this week. So our fourth, we fought Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Spider-Man, and now X-Men. So when I first saw the cover, I was like, wait a minute. This is, because I remember we did Godzilla versus Hulk. And I specifically said, okay, I think this is set in the 70s when the original Godzilla comic by Marvel came out. Because I was trying to figure out how they're working this IP and stuff. And, because the Godzilla people, they're very protective of their IP, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if there was a way that Marvel carved out a little niche to do it. Because the Fantastic Four and the Hulk one definitely felt like they were in that 70s vibe, right? Like they were set in the 70s. Well, Spider-Man was clearly in the 80s because it was the black suit costume, right? Which was right in the middle of the 80s. It's literally after he got the costume. It's like, I guess continuity-wise. So that's in the 80s. But then you see the cover for the X-Men one. That's the 90s X-Men. Yep. Professor Xavier's in his hover chair, Gambit's on the team, like it's clearly, and then Cyclops is in his Jim Lee 90s costume, the red and gold, or the one with the X and the bandoliers and stuff. So yeah, so I'm confused immediately, and then I guess by the time I read it, I'm like, it doesn't really matter. I guess they're maybe going through ages, or maybe they just took the character from whatever era they wanted to write it and then just wrote it. So anyway. So to start off with, it's the 90s X-Men versus Godzilla. This was a really fun one. You get Professor X doing some stuff. Usually when there's an X-Men battle, again, Professor X being so powerful, they usually have to take him off the board. Right. But he gets to participate, so that's fun. There's a heist. So, Gambit gets some play because there's a heist involved. They bring back a classic X-Men villain character, and also you got to believe Sentinels are somehow involved. Right. Except it's a combination of a Sentinel and then a Godzilla arch villain kind of thing going on. So you get Godzilla fighting the X-Men. You got Godzilla fighting a Sentinel. That's actually looks like it's like a Mecha Godzilla, but it's a Mecha some other villain, which I won't reveal, right? Okay. Yeah. And then, of course, you got Godzilla teaming up with the X-Men to defeat the Mecha villain. And then you have this other character, which the X-Men use to try to defeat Godzilla. So there's a lot going on, but it's really fun. Every character for the X-Men gets a little play. They get to use their powers and stuff, and they all kind of team up. It's just a fun little story. So probably if I'm ranking them right now, we're 4 in. I'm gonna go with either X-Men or Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a little less coherent. Mm-hmm. It's a fun one, but it's a little less coherent. Where X-Men has a very coherent beginning, middle, and end. Okay. Probably out of all 4 of them, there's definitely like a story within the story. It's not just them meeting Godzilla and fighting him. There is a specific storyline that they complete in the story, where the other ones are kind of like, yeah, Godzilla's involved, but it's less, we're going to fight Godzilla and then it's over kind of thing. So this one may be the best so far. Art's good. Yeah, it's just fun. So if
Yeah.
you've been liking
Yeah,
all the
it's-
other ones, get this one. If you try that one and you like it, get all the other ones. So
Yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
I think this whole thing with this Godzilla versus has been.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
So next up
Yeah.
is Avengers, I think, and then Thor,
yeah.
and then of course he's gonna battle the Marvel Universe totally.
Oh,
So,
that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So that's a separate thing.
Yeah, is it?
All right, James. What's your second book today?
Yeah, so it's One World Under Doom number 4.
Okay.
So I know we both read that.
Yes. It's not one of my books today, but I did read it.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
it was a fun one. It was just one giant fight between Dormammu and Doctor Doom.
That's right. Yeah, if you just want to see those two throw down, you get that this whole issue.
Yeah, it's like punch after. I mean, it's not really necessarily one sided. Doctor Doom has some good ones, and then Dormammu, and then it goes back and forth.
Right.
So it's never really one sided. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really liked. I mean, there's not a whole lot I guess you can really say about this issue. It was really cool because towards the beginning, obviously he exiles like all the heroes off the
Yeah,
wherever
Dormammu
the-
does.
Dormammu does, yeah.
exactly. That was a little
Um,
confusing. I thought I missed something.
Yeah.
because it just happened.
Yeah,
and I'm
first
just-
page.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. But no, so I think it was the first page or maybe the second where Doctor Doom puts into play like I think 3 different spells.
Right.
And and then you see how those factor towards the end.
Right.
But yeah, towards the end of the issue, Doctor Doom acts a certain way where you're just kind of like, different than what you would think that Doctor Doom normally would. But I think it's just because he was the only one fighting Dormammu, and he's basically seeing what he can.
Yeah, well, Doom doesn't like to lose.
Yeah,
is the
exactly.
first thing.
Yeah.
So he refuses to lose, and Dormammu actually points that out as a weakness of him.
Mhm.
So and that's an interesting story beat. But I think the big thing is that Doom if you've read enough Doom stuff, there's been 2 or 3 instances in his history where he's kind of been under the same kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
Probably the first time I saw it was at the end of the original Secret Wars when he tries to steal the Beyonder's power.
Mhm.
And it basically is going to kill him. But
Okay.
he forces his way basically through it all to gain, that power. Like he'll do anything. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't,
he
he
definitely-
just won't quit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's pretty, the story is pretty on par with Doom as a character. Like he acts
Yeah.
exactly as I thought he would. And, he's just kind of a super, it's just kind of a word I won't say. on
Yeah,
the
right.
video, but that's part of what makes him who he is, I guess.
Yeah.
So
It was kind of cool to see though too. There was a part where there's 2 characters. Okay, so there was one where you saw the claws.
oh
Did you
yes,
see
okay,
that?
yeah.
And then
yeah,
you saw the other. I think it was towards the beginning where he's like,
yeah. There's some stuff that
Yeah.
the spells do come into play, and there's some
Mhm.
cool scenes, and yeah. So it's a really fun book,
Mhm.
but it is literally just a fight
It
fight
is,
book.
yeah.
It's just those 2
Mhm.
fight. There's not much, So we'll see how this. Obviously, with the ending, we see how this is going to go forward and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's ramping up, but yeah. It's just a really cool Doom fight, like one of the best, maybe.
Yeah, I
that
think
I've ever
so.
seen.
Mhm.
So
was this how many issues was the main title?
I have no idea.
You don't know? Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I
Okay.
really don't. I mean, I really don't.
Yeah.
It could be, as far as I know, it could be ongoing. I don't know how long this Doom thing's gonna last, or
Mhm.
like I said, it's obviously a theme that's going on right now. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, because all the tie-ins are miniseries.
Yeah,
Right,
most
yeah.
of the tie-ins,
Yeah.
or when it gets to like one of the major titles, like an Iron Man or whatever, it'll have the Fantastic Four. It'll have One World Under Doom
Mhm.
across the title. That means it's kind of tying into the overall story. But since Fantastic Four is relaunching in July, I can't believe there's many
Right.
more issues left. I think this is going to be done by July.
By
'cause
July,
there's going
yeah.
to be a bunch of relaunches of titles and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah,
Are
at
they
least in the
doing-
short term.
Yeah.
Because they've also got Doctor Strange is Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard right now,
Yeah,
are trying
yeah.
to become it, which is
Yeah.
also another good book. I should have brought that book up. I don't know why I didn't. So I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, because I completely spaced it.
Okay.
Anyways, next up for us is we actually both also read this one, which is Supergirl #1.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about my other one first, or do you want to go?
Oh, that's right. You do have another one.
I do.
Yeah,
have
yeah.
another
Go
one.
right ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So my second one is this Exquisite
That's right.
Corpses. All right. The latest image. This is an image title by James Tynion the fourth, I guess. So super popular writer, writes mostly horror. So I, as you know, maybe don't read horror.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like horror. I don't watch horror movies. I just don't. I'm not a big fan. It means I doesn't mean I won't. I've seen vampire movies. I've seen other stuff
sure.
that is more like. So I've watched all the Alien films.
Mm-hmm.
So they're technically. So if you mix in sci-fi or you mix in something else and it's still horror, then I'm all right with it. But just straight up like slasher or these people die, I'm not interested. Yeah. So anyway, so Exquisite Corpses, of course, of course, is in the horror genre, but it is action horror.
Yeah.
So if he was pitching it, I'm sure his pitch meeting would go something like this. He says, I'm going to do a little bit of Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a little bit of The Purge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a little bit of the book, oh man, I can't believe it was on top of it, Lazarus.
Okay.
Did you ever read Lazarus?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So, yeah, this is like... and again, I only read the Ashcan preview. I forgot to grab the actual first issue because we sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably only read half the first issue. So, but anyway, I get the gist of it. So, but it was good. I did enjoy it, even though it's horror, because it's going to have a lot of this action-y fighting thing. So he's setting it up like this big contest of champions, but in a really bad way. So I guess the conceit is that. And they've been doing this a lot lately, it seems like. We're going back to the Revolutionary War. And the original 13... I can't tell. He calls them families. But in the extra stuff where you kind of see who's doing what, it's done by states. So there's 13 of them, but one's Massachusetts, one's Georgia, one's, South Carolina. So I don't know if family and colony are interchangeable, or he's saying like each colony was created by a family. But basically, these families run the U.S. We just don't know it. The usual kind of stuff they do with these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And every 5 years on Halloween, they have a contest to who the most powerful family of the 13 is going to be. Like who the head of the group, the cabal or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so each of the families picks a champion. And what they do is they pick a small town in the middle of kind of nowhere in America, and they cut it off. They sever the power lines, they sever internet, they sever the telephone. So they basically just cut it off from the rest of the country for one night, and then they throw these champions into the town. And the champion that's left standing, I assume the one that kills the rest of them, that family wins power for 5 years. So that's what it is. So it's just going to be a big, and I'm assuming that, so they don't evacuate the town, right? So there's just a bunch of innocent people there too, which is why I kind of say it's like the Purge.
Yeah.
So it's got the Hunger Games Battle Royale conceit, but it's also in a town with a bunch of people in it, and I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of people dying that are totally innocent of this, and they don't know what's going on, right? And they can't get out, and no one can get in. And so, yeah, that's the setup. So basically, the whole issue is just setting up for this grand carnage game that they're going to play. And then, of course, in the back of the preview issue, I don't know if this is the #1, it goes through all the champions. So, and like we were saying, there's some sort of trading card game mixed into this, and I don't know whether it's going to actually be a game you can play, or is it just something where they're giving you kind of like sports cards. Here's your players, because it has stats on them, right? Okay. And so that's what the little descriptions are. They each have they each have a special weapon. So there's a weapon each family has that's like their weapon. So one may be a sword, one may be a gun, one may be a knife, one may be a rope. So the champion is the expert at this weapon.
Okay.
So it's not just everyone has a bunch of guns they're shooting at each other. There's only I think there's maybe 2 dudes that have guns. Gotcha. But there's one that has a crossbow, there's one that has a knife, there's one that has a giant club. There's one that has a drone. So yeah. So this just, like I said, I don't know. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It's obviously horror and it's going to be horrific. I'll keep trying it because it's got that kind of video game battle royale thing that, like I said, this could be pitched as a movie, TV show, a video game, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so get ready, so we'll see what the trading cards are. Are they an actual game you can play, or are they just like sports cards where it's just the player and the stats, but yeah, and I don't know how those are even given out. Supposedly they're bagged in the comics, but I didn't see any bagged versions. So maybe it was something that was a variant that I just didn't order because I didn't understand what it was, maybe. Because, there was, it was 6 or 7 covers. Maybe it's just one that I passed on, or maybe I had to meet some sort of goal. So I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of looked ahead to, because when I heard about the cards and they were talking about the poly bags, I was like, huh. So I looked ahead and I think, so I know for sure starting issue 2, there's going to be the poly bag, and that one's actually going to have the card inside.
Okay.
So,
okay, maybe I screwed up.
Yeah, I wish I would have really paid attention to this. Yeah.
So yeah, sorry about that. But I've already sold out, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But they'll second print it. Maybe they'll second print the cards. I don't know.
Right.
So we'll see. But anyway, if you like Tynan stuff, you're gonna love this. If you like the things I said, Purge, Hunger Games, Lazarus, you'll probably enjoy this too.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, like I said earlier,
yes.
before I forgot that you had another one.
That's fine.
It was Supergirl #1.
Supergirl #1. All right. She gets her own book.
Yeah. Okay. It's a new ongoing series as of right now.
Okay. And I have read very little Supergirl in my So I remember reading Batman, Superman back in the early 2000s when she was officially put back into modern continuity. That's when like Michael Turner was drawing the book and stuff. So that was like 2002 or something like that.
Oh, sure.
2001. Okay. I remember reading that arc because I was reading that book, and then Peter David wrote a pretty long running Supergirl series, which is referenced in this first issue. So the hometown she goes back, and the alias she has, that was all set up in this Supergirl series that Peter David did. In like, again, the early 2000s, it lasted a long time, like 60, 70 issues. So it was through the early 2000s. But I didn't read it all. I maybe read the first 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, nothing much. So at least I understood the references they're making in the first issue, but other than that, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but maybe I'm trying to remember if I've read anything else other than that of hers. Not really.
Okay.
But no, this is a very seems like more of a personal story to Supergirl. Just because she's going back to Midvale, and which is kind of like
it's a Smallville.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
So it's her version of Smallville.
Yeah. But no, this first issue is just kind of cool, where we kind of see Kara shrink down and go into the Pandora.
Yeah. So I think the issue is good for us as non-readers, right? Because it gives us a quick tour through the big things that are in Supergirl's origin, and one is the fact that she's actually from the bottle city of Kandor, the little miniature city. Yeah. So she goes in there and actually is the Superman of that city. So she goes in and patrols, I guess, But
she's
what
this ring.
Yeah, the ring to shrink down and stuff. And then of course she's the one that has the super pets. So Crypto and Streaky. Yeah. Because Streaky's hers technically, I guess, and Crypto's Superman. But she seems to be watching them both. So that could be fun if they're involved in this at all. Although it looked like Crypto was the only one that accompanied her back to the town. But I thought it was a good little, a little winding through her basic origins and stuff, so everyone can get on the same page. I thought that was good. I also thought that this was a true kind of Silver Agey throwback.
Yes. Yep, that's
because
exactly
did you notice the one thing in this book which I don't think we've seen in quite quite a while. Did you notice what they were doing in this book? Now, maybe they're doing in other ones and I haven't noticed it, but I truly noticed it in this one.
Is it the brush?
No. The way the dialogue was. Did you notice?
I don't think so.
Okay, she thinks they got thought balloons.
Yes. Okay.
Now that's a thing that's been taken out of style in the last 20 years.
Wow.
The modern comics. You go back and read comics in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, 60s. A lot they're thinking to themselves. A lot of thought balloons, right?
Yeah.
But after 2000. It was started by Marvel. They made like specific editorial conceits that you're gonna show, not tell. The characters are either gonna speak or you're gonna do their emotions via the art.
Okay.
And they're not gonna like explain stuff. Like there's a funny running gag of Chris Claremont when he wrote the X-Men for all those years that every time Psylocke, various characters would have like things that they would always think, like that were like kind of, I don't know, whatever. But you read old Spider-Mans or whatever, they're constantly thinking to themselves to move the plot along instead of necessarily showing it in the art or whatever. So yeah, you read modern comics, you don't see as many the little circle with the thought balloon, right? And so this one's filled with them.
Yeah, I liked it.
She's doing a lot of talking to herself, which. Like I said, felt like a real throwback to what would be like a 70s or a 60s book. So maybe that's a editorial decision that they're doing with this, where it's going to be a little bit more Silver Agey. Like everything's kind of bright and colorful, and it's like stuff's happening, but it doesn't seem to have the kind of emotional weight they may put on it if it was a more modern storyteller, kind of thing. So it's interesting, choice.
Yeah, and I wonder if the reason that they did that is because like when you have the dialogue and then you might have like description and then you have like the characters, their thought bubbles, where it's just like, okay, that's kind of like making the panel seem like overcrowded, but at the same time, it helps you get more into that character's head and probably even maybe connect more. I liked it. I really I'm sad that they it's been that long since.
No, I like the vibe. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like it gives it this kind of classic comic book vibe that you don't see from modern comics. And some people may dig that. It may be a reason to try it out if they want to have that more, especially with Superman, who's been around so long.
True.
It's like some people like it when it's kind of more. I don't know, more. It seems fun. Mm-hmm. Like there's violence, but the violence seems fun and not, super like no one's bleeding.
Yeah, exactly. You're not battle beasting.
So like you do the Doom fight versus the Supergirl fight. It's like night and day, right? This one's like, oh, we're just gonna have some fun with this, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that when I mentioned about it being a personal story to her, I think this is a journey for her to kind of get out of the shadow of Superman, essentially. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
this, what most of the issue takes place of, her parents calling her like, hey, we want you to come back. We took leave and we renovated the house, and then she gets there and there's another Supergirl. I won't say too much about that, but
there's definitely a mystery to start us off.
Yeah. So and then she goes home and then she sees what else has been going on. Not a whole lot you can say about that without ruining it, but I really liked it. I wasn't sure if I was going to, like I said, because I haven't read a bunch of Supergirl. I like Tom King's like Woman of Tomorrow, but
sure.
But yeah, it was solid, I think.
Yeah, and I also think this is a book that could be read by almost anyone. So I think the art style and the way, like I said, the way it's played out means that, like, if you have a 12-year-old girl that really likes Supergirl, or you have someone younger that wants to try out something that's still in continuity but maybe isn't written as this seems to me like PG at best. So at least starting out, nothing too violent, or like the fights are very comic booky, not realistic. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I also liked how the fact how Superman has the glasses and stuff like that. I like that they gave her some sort of disguise.
Right.
I mentioned it just a little bit ago, but I won't go into that too much. But yeah, it's cool that they gave her that disguise to
Well, yeah,
sort of
and
fit
the
in
fact
more.
that she's not she's not really a known quantity,
Yeah,
I guess,
yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no, it's interesting. And like I said, I think they're gonna get back to obviously they're gonna get back to maybe some of the stuff that was in that earlier series I mentioned because
Mhm.
that's where it was set, was in that small town basically.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad this is an ongoing series. I'll be
yeah.
really thrilled to
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Yeah, DC's been, doing a really good job
Yeah,
of
hitting on all
launching
cylinders.
these books. So
Yeah.
yeah, good on them.
Yeah.
So all right.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for
Okay.
this week's comics.
All right, awesome. So yeah, some really good stuff, and don't worry if you can't find Exquisite Corpses. It's tough 2 words.
It is.
Or Battle Beasts. They're gonna get second printed if your local store doesn't have them. So don't worry, you'll have a chance to try them out. And other than that, thanks, James.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.